Hey everybody, this is Eric Fischnaller, and I'm just doing another little subsection of this review for my scooter here, my EMOVE touring scooter. You can see right behind me there. And so I wanted to talk to you briefly about kind of some things that I discovered this week. Number one, there's this kind of odd little brake issue, which I'm going to give you a close-up of in a second, but it's causing me a little bit of grief, and I think it's a common one. I've seen other people talk about it, and I've called the shop that I bought it from, Electric Avenue, but I have not heard back from them yet. So I might go down there and see what I can find out about the solution for that problem. It's basically there's this, on a drum brake, there's a brake cable, and then there's like some sort of a little thing that holds that brake cable housing. And then the cable goes to this little arm, and that's basically how it functions. It pulls on the arm, which then takes a brake shoe and pushes it against another brake shoe, and that's how they work. So that cable housing, the part that holds the housing, it just basically, as you're riding it and you hit bumps a bunch of times, it kind of just does this and just bumps right out. And so then it's sitting out. Now fortunately, it still works. I don't know why, but it does. It does still work, and it shouldn't, but it does. So that's the good news. The bad news is it doesn't work exactly properly. And what it does do at times, because I have the cruise control option turned on my scooter, is as you're riding along and you have the cruise set, it does at times knock the cruise off, because it just bounces around enough that it thinks that you're braking, because it's not in that housing little holder as it's supposed to be. So that is a negative for sure. Now the funny thing is, my wife's scooter, we bought them at exactly the same time. They're the exact same model. Hers has got some differences. Her handlebar is got a square on it instead of round, which is weird. Like, I don't know why that is. And hers, where that little arm is that holds the brake housing, there's actually a screw in there to keep the brake housing from popping out. And so hers has not had any problems. So my guess is that I'm going to try to get them to supply that proper part. And maybe they just used maybe this orange one is just ever so slightly older, or maybe it's the newer one and hers is the older one. But in any case, I'm going to have that fixed, because I want that to work properly. Brakes being important and all, and then the other thing I wanted to talk to you briefly about is that I did a test on this thing to see how much battery life I would have, how much range I would have. And again, I'm 6'4", I'm about 225 pounds, and I took it out and I rode clear across on the other side of town and back. And by the time I did that, I kind of took the scenic route, rode over to my friend's house clear on the other side of town. And by the time I got back, I had 18 something miles, 18.3 miles or something on my run. And I know that the range on this scooter is around 20 to 22 miles, roughly. And that the top speed is, 23, 24 miles. Well, I've been able to get on the flats around 21 miles per hour in terms of speed when it's nearly full charge and when I'm in mode 3. So just so you guys know about that. And then as far as range, when I started out on the ride, and I did almost the entire ride on mode 2, so that's like the mid-range mode that takes you from 14 to 18 miles an hour. And so I did my entire ride on mode 2, except for one time when I used mode 3 to go up a really big bridge that I had to go over. And so essentially with that, I came home and I'd had 18.3 miles. And so then I kind of rode around in the local neighborhood right by my house, because when it did crap out, I didn't want to have to push it a really long ways. I kind of created like a 3-mile loop by kind of going around and looping through all the streets and all that kind of thing. And so I did that one more time. So then I had, 19, 20, 21. And then I did it again, 22, 23, 24. So at 24 miles, I had 1 bar left on the charger. My speed had gone from when I started the day, and I had it floored on mode 2 at around 18 to 19 miles an hour. my speed was down to 10 to 11 miles per hour on mode 2 because again, it was almost out of charge. And I don't want to run it all the way dead because it's just not a good idea for a lithium battery to run all the way dead. So I ran it down to probably what would be the equivalent of a half a bar. I think, if I remember right, let me see, I did take a picture of it. It was at 41.7. So I don't know what the low voltage is, but I'm guessing it's like 39 based on the type of voltage that this scooter uses. And that when it's full, it's like 52 to 55. It just kind of depends on, you know, how the battery charger works and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so, you know, usually when it's full, it's 53 or so, and when it's empty, it's 39 or so. And so I was at 41, so I was almost dead. And I got 23.3 miles. And again, up and down some hills. I think my total ride, I had about 400 so feet of elevation gain, a couple pretty big bridges, like overpasses basically, but mostly flat. And it was an 88 degree day, so not cold by any stretch, not super blazingly hot, but you know, a good temperature for operating range for these things. Not too cold, because real cold is bad for the batteries, and I know they don't perform as well. So that is what I had to share with you today, and I just wanted to talk to you briefly about that and show you the scooter. And I also added this neat little water pouch, which I got a 2-pack on Amazon for really inexpensive, and I'll post those in the description below. And it did work really well. And anyway, thank you very much for joining me today. And you know, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to my channel. I do primarily graphic design stuff is what I've been doing lately, but I just have all of a sudden have this interest in these electric scooters. And I just found out a friend of mine bought a Mantis 8, which is an 800 watt rear motor scooter. And I am certain that I'm gonna be able to get a review to you guys about that, because I'll be curious to test it as well. Maybe I'll try riding it up the big Hurley hill over here and see if it goes up, because this thing does not. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you guys soon.